On a quiet stretch of railway, far from the noise and bustle of human life, a mother dog lies trembling, her thin body anchored to the cold, unyielding steel by a rusted chain. Her puppies huddle close to her, their tiny bodies pressed into her side, their soft whimpers barely audible over the faint rumble in the distance. She glances down at them, her eyes filled with both love and a quiet desperation. Her breath is shallow, each rise and fall of her chest betraying the fear she tries to conceal. The vibration in the tracks grows stronger, a haunting signal of what is to come. A distant train whistle cuts through the silence, sharp and foreboding, sending a ripple of tension through the air. The mother dog lifts her head for a brief moment, her ears twitching at the sound, before lowering it again with a resigned calm. She nudges her puppies closer to her, as if trying to shield them from an unstoppable fate. There is no struggle, no panic, only an overwhelming sense of quiet resolve as she closes her eyes, bracing for what she believes is the inevitable. But fate has a way of surprising us, and sometimes, even in the darkest moments, hope finds a way. She wasn't always here, chained to the tracks, waiting for a cruel fate. Her story began in a forgotten corner of the world, where survival was a daily battle. The mother dog had once roamed freely, scavenging through trash piles and wandering dirt roads in search of food for herself and her puppies. She had no home, no safety, only her instincts and the bond with her tiny family to keep her going. Days turned into nights, the same cycle of hunger and fear, until one day, everything changed. It happened quickly and without warning. A figure appeared, a person who didn't come with kindness or food, but with chains. Their face, obscured in shadows, offered no explanation, no remorse. The mother dog barked and growled, her maternal instincts driving her to protect her pups. But she was no match for the strength and cold determination of her captor. The chain was heavy, the lock unforgiving, and in moments, she found herself tethered to a place she couldn't escape. Her puppies cried as they were placed beside her, their small bodies trembling from the unfamiliarity of it all. The figure left as quickly as they came, disappearing into the distance without a backward glance. The mother dog pulled at the chain, her body straining against the weight of it, but it wouldn't budge. She pawed at the dirt, her nails scraping the ground, her strength waning with each attempt. Eventually, exhausted, she lay down beside her pups, nuzzling them for comfort, as if to reassure them that she was still there, even if she couldn't save them. The hours stretched on. The sun dipped lower in the sky, casting long shadows over the tracks. Hunger gnawed at her stomach, but it was nothing compared to the growing sense of dread as the distant sound of a train horn pierced the air. This was where someone had chosen to leave them, bound and helpless, on a path that promised no mercy. The sound of a train whistle echoed louder now, cutting through the stillness of the evening air. Just as it seemed all hope was lost, a faint voice called out in the distance. It was a passerby, a local hiker perhaps, who had taken a detour along the tracks and stumbled upon the heart-wrenching sight. The figure froze for a moment, their mind racing to process what lay before them. A dog, chained to the tracks, her puppies trembling beside her. Without hesitation, they dropped their belongings and sprinted toward the helpless family. "Hold on, girl. I'm here to help," the rescuer muttered under their breath, their voice a mixture of urgency and reassurance. Kneeling beside the mother dog, they reached for the chain, their fingers fumbling against the rusted metal. The mother dog, though wary, didn't flinch. Her eyes seemed to plead for help as she glanced between her rescuer and her puppies. The chain was tightly wound, its lock old but stubborn, refusing to budge. The rescuer frantically scanned the area, searching for anything that could help break the chain. They pulled out their phone, dialing local authorities or animal services, explaining the situation in hurried tones. "There's a train coming! I need someone here now!" they shouted, their voice trembling as the distant rumble grew louder. Every second felt like an eternity. With no tools at hand, the rescuer began pulling at the chain with all their strength, desperate to free the mother dog and her pups. The mother dog whimpered softly as though trying to encourage them, her tail giving a weak wag despite the dire situation. The train horn blared again, closer this time, its sound vibrating through the air. The rescuer glanced up at the tracks, their heart pounding as the first faint lights of the locomotive came into view. "Come on, come on," they muttered under their breath, their hands trembling as they worked furiously against the chain. The train's roar grew deafening, and the tracks began to shake beneath them. Time was slipping away, and every heartbeat echoed with the weight of what was at stake. The train's roar was deafening now, its headlights cutting through the fading light as it barreled closer. The mother dog pressed herself against her puppies, her body instinctively shielding them as if she could protect them from the unstoppable force. The rescuers' hands trembled as they tugged at the chain one last time, adrenaline surging through their veins. "Come on, please!" they shouted, their voice barely audible over the thunderous noise. The train's horn blasted again, long and sharp, a final warning that seemed to pierce through everything. The rescuer leaped into action, grabbing a sharp rock from the ground and striking the lock with every ounce of strength they had. Sparks flew as metal clanged against metal, the sound drowned out by the screeching brakes of the train, which had finally come into view. Its massive engine loomed, hurtling forward despite the desperate attempts to slow it down. In a final, desperate strike, the lock gave way with a sharp crack, and the chain fell loose. Without wasting a second, the rescuers scooped up the puppies in their arms, urging the mother dog to follow. "Let's go! Let's go!" they cried, running toward the edge of the tracks. The mother dog hesitated for a split second, her instincts still tethered to the spot where she had been bound, before bolting after her rescuer. The train thundered past just as they reached the safety of the grassy embankment, its powerful wind whipping through the air and scattering dust and debris around them. The rescuer collapsed onto the ground, cradling the frightened puppies in their arms as the mother dog leaned against them, her body trembling, but finally free. For a moment, everything was still except for the rhythmic pounding of the rescuer's heartbeat and the soft whimpers of the pups. The mother dog nuzzled her rescuer's hand, her eyes filled with a mix of gratitude and exhaustion. It was over. Against all odds, they had made it out alive. The train disappeared into the distance, its rumble fading into the quiet of the evening. The rescuer sat on the grassy embankment, catching their breath, the puppies still nestled in their arms. The mother dog, now free from the chain that had held her captive, pressed close to her savior, as if she understood that this stranger had given her and her pups a second chance at life. Her tail wagged weakly, a small sign of trust amidst the exhaustion and fear. "Hey, it's okay now. You're safe," the rescuer whispered, stroking her matted fur gently. The puppies let out soft, tentative cries, and the mother dog immediately leaned in to nuzzle them, her protective instincts still intact. Despite everything they had been through, there was an undeniable resilience in her. After a moment, the rescuer pulled out their phone, dialing a local animal shelter. "I found a mother dog and her puppies near the tracks," they explained, their voice calmer now. "They need help. Can you take them in?" A pause, then a sigh of relief as the shelter confirmed they could take the family and provide them with care. The journey to safety wasn't over yet. Carefully, the rescuer placed the puppies into a soft carrier they had in their bag, then coaxed the mother dog to follow. She hesitated, glancing back at the tracks one last time before turning her attention fully to her rescuer. With every step, she seemed to gain strength, as if hope itself was fueling her tired body. Hours later, at the animal shelter, the family was given food, water, and a warm place to rest. The puppies, their tiny tails wagging for the first time, curled up together in a soft blanket. The mother dog lay nearby, finally at ease, her eyes closing as she drifted into a peaceful sleep. Though their ordeal was over, their story was just beginning. The rescuer stayed by their side, watching as the shelter staff prepared to help the family find a forever home. For the first time in what must have felt like an eternity, the mother dog and her pups were safe, cared for, and surrounded by compassion. And in that moment, it was clear that their future would be one of hope and love, not fear or pain. Weeks passed, and the mother dog and her puppies began to transform in ways that were nothing short of miraculous. In the shelter's warm and loving care, their fragile bodies filled out, their coats became glossy, and their spirits began to shine. The once terrified mother dog now wagged her tail eagerly whenever someone approached, her eyes no longer filled with fear, but with gratitude and trust. Her puppies, once trembling and helpless, grew playful and curious, tumbling over each other as they discovered a world that was safe and full of kindness. The shelter staff worked tirelessly to ensure the family was not only healthy, but also ready for adoption. Photos of the mother and her pups were shared online, their story touching hearts far and wide. Comments and messages poured in, offers to adopt, donations to the shelter, and heartfelt words of encouragement for the brave little family that had survived against all odds. One by one, the puppies found their forever homes, each leaving the shelter with a new family and a bright future. Their wagging tails and happy barks were a testament to the resilience of life and the power of second chances. The mother dog watched each of her babies leave, her eyes soft and calm, as if she understood they were heading to a better place. Finally, it was her turn. A kind-hearted couple arrived at the shelter, drawn by her story and her gentle spirit. They knelt down to meet her, speaking softly as she stepped forward to sniff their hands. She looked up at them, her tail wagging slowly, and in that moment, it was clear. She had found her people. As the mother dog left the shelter with her new family, she paused at the door and looked back, as if to say goodbye to the place that had saved her. She walked out into the sunlight, her head held high and her steps steady, ready to begin her new life. This family's story could have ended in tragedy, but instead, it became a testament to the strength of compassion and the importance of helping those who cannot help themselves. Their survival was a team effort, a rescuer's courage, a shelter's dedication, and the love of new families who opened their hearts to them. It's a reminder to us all that even in the darkest moments, there is always hope,